So this is the topic overview which we are going to discuss. I think you most of are aware about it when you receive uh, the message. So first, I'll give you a nutshell view of Indian Evidence Act, which is 1872. So the first question, which comes to our mind, what is the law of evidence? So law of evidence is based on three principles. First is admissibility, then relevance, and weight and sufficiency. What does it mean? See, the whole law of evidence is talk about only three aspects. If you say that law of evidence, admissibility means what type of evidence we can admit in court of law. Second, are they relevance? Because we cannot allow each and every evidence
We're not getting the
when we
sound.
go into the trial. And third, the evidence. What is the weight? How much weight we give to an evidence. Now, this is the structure of the Indian evidence. I hope all are aware that we have two kind of acts. One which we say the substantial act, and second we say the procedural act. Substantial act decide the right and liability and punishment. If I say an easy example, suppose we are into kitchen and we want to prepare any recipe. So the ingredient is called the substance of it. And if you talk about the procedure, how to make that recipe, that is called procedure. So in law of substantive law, we only talk about the right and liability, and in procedure law we talk about how to deal with when it come to the court. Now, law of evidence is a piece of legislature which comprises both substantive and procedure law. So when we talk about, and it gives the answer of three questions: what, how, and who. What means the relevancy of fact, what facts are relevant, and what is proof, and second, who is going to prove this fact. So whenever you talk about any law, it is important to go to the background of that law. So it is easy for us to understand that why such enactment has been enacted and why it has been enacted and what was the object behind it. So if you trace the history of Indian Evidence Act, it started way back in 1872. Then why the act has been enacted? What is the reason for enactment of this act? Why we have created this act? So before this act, we were in the age of colonial law. We were under the British Raj. So when the Britisher came into India, they considered that there should be a unique system so that everyone should be come under that umbrella. Before 1872, there was different states and there were different type of law. Hindus were their own law, then Muslims were their own law, and everyone there is own law, and there is no uniformity in any of the law. There are different people, there are different castes. It was very difficult for them to educate themselves and to try and better. So they have thought that the India should be bind in one unified system of law, and there was they have started the codification of law, and that was a commission which has been constituted under Sir Henry Menn in 1868, and but the law is drafted by Sir James Stephens. So, I mean, you can say the father of this law, it is uh, Sir J. Stephens. In 1872, we have enacted and we adopted this law by the Britishers. And it is very important to understand and to know that the same law, were applicable both in India and Pakistan. But in 1984, the Pakistan had repealed this law and they have, implemented their own law that is called Quran Shahada. Now, the latest amendment in August 2008 in criminal law, and subsequently we have also amended the Indian Evidence Act. I think you will get something is very theoretical, but you will enjoy it when we move on to the later slide. I have talked about the law of evidence. Now, what is evidence actually? So evidence mean proof. आपने बहुत सी बार देखा होगा जब आप कोर्ट में जाते हैं तो बहुत सारे लोग कहते हैं आपके पास कोई प्रूफ है, मतलब आपके पास क्या सबूत है. तो द प्रूफ इज एनी पीस of fact which need to be proved to ascertain your case. The second is probability. So any proof is dependent on probability as well, because no proof is self-sufficient or is complete or absolute. So we also include the probability with evidence. And third is legally presented in the trial. We have many proof, but it doesn't mean that all are admissible in the court of law. So it will also be legally presented in the court. The court should accept that yes, we can say that it is the proof and it is an admissible proof. And what is the use of that proof or that probability? To decide an issue, because whenever you go to the court there are two parties, one who have instituted the case and another who are defending the case. So there are two parties. So when there is a tussle, there is the issue between two parties, one accept and second is denied, then the evidence come into the place and we have to present our evidence, and that's how the whole system is started. Next slide. Now, this is the summary of evidence, meaning proving or disproving a fact, matter, in issue. I mean, when two parties are, fighting in the court, one is saying it is, and second is saying no, it is not. So that is the meaning of the evidence. We have to prove something and the other party has to deny it. And what is indicate? Let's take an example. If I say that this property belongs to me, so I have to present a piece of evidence which testify or on which I can say that this properties belong to me. What does it include? It include all these statements. We say the oral statement. Later on we'll see that it is the testimony, and the second is the documentary evidence. So there are two types of evidence. One is a statement and second is the document. That is a broad category of an evidence. Then what we do of this type of evidence? We present before the court, and if court and it is admissible a piece of evidence in the court, then we say we win or we lose in the court. Evidence is a piece which is demonstrate the truth of the party. Now the second slide, another slide. The Supreme Court, in a matter says the word evidence in connection with law All valid meaning includes all except agreement which prove or disprove any fact or matter whose furtherance is presented for judicial investigations. At this stage, it will be proper to bear in mind that where the parties and the other party don't get an opportunity to cross-examine the statement to ascertain the truth, then in such a condition, this party's statement is not an evidence. The meaning is very clear. Whenever we go to the court, it should be connected with law and there should be a relevancy of the fact. Now the application of this act, before, I mean, you must have seen that there are many acts which were not applicable to state of Jammu and Kashmir. But after recent development in Jammu and Kashmir, Article 370, which has been repealed, so the application of this act also there in Jammu and Kashmir, and the this Indian Evidence Act also extend to whole of India. It's applicable to all the judicial proceedings before a court, including the court martials, Army Act, Navy Act, and the Air Force Act as well. But it is not applicable to proceeding under the Army Act, the Naval Discipline Act. Why? Because the proceeding, which is the proceeding in such a matter infer the principle of natural justice, the disciplinary proceedings. Because when we call the principle of natural justice, and they have their own procedure to take the evidence, to trial the matter, so that is why it is informal. So that is why it is not applicable. Now it is also not applicable on affidavit. It's not applicable on arbitration proceeding. Now it is a very important question why the Evidence Act is not applicable on affidavits. So I mean, I would like to ask some of you, what is the meaning of affidavit and what it stands for? Can you unmute all the participants for a moment?
Those who want to ask question, they only just unmute and ask question. Or if someone want to reply for the evidence, you can.
Okay, I think now. So affidavit is not a piece of evidence. Affidavit only means, or affidavit only support whatever you said in the court. It is the supportive part of an government. And it, if you any of you gone through to the content of the affidavit, it says whatever written in the affidavit, it is true and correct best of my knowledge. So affidavit is not a piece of evidence. It is only the supporting part of an evidence. Support that whatever I am saying is true, correct, and nothing material has been concealed. And likewise, the arbitration proceeding, it is follow the principle of natural justice. That is why the arbitration proceeding is not covered under the application of Indian Evidence Act. And the same is the departmental inquiries, domestic inquiries, commission inquiry, because all come under the principle of naturality, and they have their own procedures, because it is very flexible. If all the proceedings, arbitration, domestic inquiry, commissions, will try to apply the Indian Evidence Act. So I mean, it will more complex, because the procedure and the substance of this, it is little bit tricky, and it is complex. That is why we have exclude all these proceedings under the purview of this Indian Evidence Act. Now, there are some important section of Indian Evidence Act. It says the one very important section, which is section 3. That is section 3. It says the interpretation clause. So it is the definition. Generally, we saw that section 2 or section 3 is the definition clauses or interpretation clauses, so that there is, because every act and every word in any act has a specific meaning. That is why we incorporate and there is a system that we include the interpretation clauses or the definition clauses, so that whatever we want to perceive uh, perceive from any word, it should be precise. That is why the interpretation clause. Now it says fact. So I have marked the thing anything, because you have to understand one thing. Every act, it is a genesis of every act. It is positive aspect. It is not negative. It's allow everything. That is why the Indian Evidence Act also, apply the same genesis, and they say fact means everything, whatever is there. It is, in your mind. It is the status of anything, the physical position, anything, whatever you think of, it is in fact, whether physical form or mental form. Now, as we have discussed that the whole Indian Evidence Act is, on 3 pillars: fact, relevancy, and fact and issue, and the admissibility in the court of law. Now, if we say that everything is the fact, but are all facts are relevant? Can we produce to prove our case in the court of law? Uh, if we follow the principle that everything or anything is the fact, no, it is not, because that is why they put the check in this clause and say only those facts which is relevant. And what is the relevant means? The connection between the dispute and what proof you are going to produce in the court of law, it is relevance. Relevancy means the connection, the chain between two facts. What you are saying. Suppose I want to say that I belong to such and such property. So when I say, so there should be the proximity, the connection of this property. I have to say that this property belongs to my father, and after my father it has been inherited to me. So that is the relevancy, and that relevancy is established by the piece of fact or the proof. And how I will prove this fact? I will show the registration document which is in my favor. I will show the will, or I will show any of the document which shows that yes, this property belongs to me. So relevancy means the connection between the fact. Then the second aspect of Indian Evidence Act is fact in issue. Issue means the dispute. You have to understand one point. When you go to the court, because you have a grievances of any person, you say that he has snatched my purse or snatched my mobile, and second say yes, I have snatched, then the court will not proceed further, because the basic principle of trial is when any person alleges and second person denies. So if any person alleges, any person says that he has done, and second person says no, I am not, I have not done. So it means there is the dispute. When the dispute arises, only when the court will proceed. So that is called the issue. Issue means dispute between two parties on which the court has to take a call. And how a court will take a call on the basis of the fact, the proof, and the relevancy of those facts which has been produced before the honorable court. And the court will decide after analyzing all the facts in terms of the laid down laws. there is another aspect. अब आप देखते हैं कई बार हम कहते हैं मैं तो केस जीत गया, मैंने फाइल करा था केस और मैं केस जीत गया, दूसरा कहता है नहीं नहीं मैं तो केस हार गया. So there is, another interpretation clause which is say proved, disproved, and not proved. It seems to be similar, that prove, then disprove, and not prove. But what is the difference between these three? Prove means absolutely whatever you are producing before a court is convinced to believe on it, and he is so convinced to deliver a judgment on it. That means proof. Example अगर आप देखते हैं कि suppose I am claiming that I got married with such and such girl, and the girls deny, no मैंने तो उनके साथ शादी नहीं करी. But when I produce the marriage certificate, the court will say okay. See, I mean he can say yes. I mean it may be considered that both are married. So prove means absolutely proving your case, not disprove. It is quite reverse situation of proof. When you instituted a case in the court of law and you induce all the documents, all the evidences before the court, and court so convinced, and you got your case. That is the meaning you have proved your case. But when you fail to prove your case, it means the negative proposition. It means you are failed to prove your case. It means you have not proved. Prove means absolutely proof, and disprove means court believe that it does not exist. Whatever you are producing before the court, it does not exist, or there is no probability to exist. That is meant disprove. Now there is also a situation between prove and not prove, which is called not prove. It is the in between situation which is require more evidence. Let's set an example. A girl and boy is living together for a long time, and there is a dispute, and everyone says that they are married, and the dispute goes to the before the court. The boy also failed to prove his case, and the girls also prove his case. But the evidence which has been presented before the court, it shows that there was something between two, and they were living together, and it is the possibility they may be the husband and wife. So the court require more documents or more evidences. That is called in between situation. Presumption means we presume something, that it will happen like this, or it may happen like this. So it means when we think, when we imagine, so it is not the meaning that we will imagine, because it is the territory of court that he will imagine when any piece of evidence produced before the court by any party. So there are three type of presumption which is there in the law of evidence. One is may presume, second is shall presume, and the conclusive proof. I mean, most of you are aware about the interpretation law. Interpretation law says if we use any word in any law, it has a specific meaning behind it. It says may presume. The word may denote the discretion of a court. Means there is a two-way. There is a two-way. Means either court believe it or court don't believe it. I mean, there is a playing field to the judge, because he want to consider your proof or he don't want to consider if the word may is used in any of the enactment. If you see the Indian Evidence Act, section 73 upward, it says when the court will consider, presume, 79 upward, presumption as a document. The second is shall presume. When court had no discretionary power, court has to consider as it has been mandated by the legislature. It is the command of the legislature that court should not use its discretion. Court has no choice. If like if a lady, if a wife died before 7 years of his marriage, then court will presume that is the dowry death. Then another example, if there is any piece of registration, registered paper, then there is the shall presumption. Court has to presume that yes, it is the owner of the property. If any of the registration document in favor of me. Now the third is conclusive proof. Court has no choice at all, because if you see may presume and shall presume, court has a limited choice. See, in may presume, court had liberty, but in shall presume, court do not have any liberty, but slightly have liberty, because court can allow further evidence to prove the fact if the contrary is given. Suppose I say that I am the owner of this property and I have shown the registered document in favor of me, or the registration deed in favor of me, but the other party says no, this registration deed has been obtained by fraud, or it has been furgy, or it has been no relevancy. So court may allow to produce further evidence. Even there is the shall presumption. So court can allow the further evidence, or court can ask if it's a thing that if there is any hanky-panky in the evidence which has been induced by the party. But in conclusive proof, there is no choice at all with the court, and court cannot allow even a single piece of evidence until law permit. And it is it means that the party has no choice to proving or disproving his fact. It means if the conclusive proof has been given, it means you have proved your case and the other party have no chance to disprove your contentions. So if you will see section 79 to 90A, it has been given that any GPA, if it is attested by notary public, it is a proof, and it is shall presumption. Now the next slide. Now there are some examples where the may presumption, where the shall presumption, where the conclusive proof. Like certified copies, it is the may presumption. Books, map, chart, telegraph message, electronic message, it is may presumption. But genuineness of a certificate, and if it is obtained through the proper process, by giving the proper fee, by it is bearing the seal, stamp, authority of the person, so it is shall presumption. And the conclusive proof example is uh, if the child is, you know, birth during the marriage, it is a conclusive proof that the legitimacy of a child is not illegitimate, because it is a conclusive proof under section 112 that if there is a marriage between the party, the child is legitimate child. It is not illegitimate. Now, as we have started, I talk about fact in issue and relevancy of fact, because you know the whole act is, you know, talk about fact, relevancy, and you know admission and all. So the section 5 says fact in issue and relevancy of fact. There is a very important case, Uttam Singh versus State of Madhya Pradesh, which says the relevancy of fact means the connection of the evidence and the fact. As section 6 says, if there is any fact which is not relevant, but if it is the forming part of the same transaction, it is also a relevant fact. Now, you know, the section 6 is based on the doctrine say res geste, means the act that speak for themselves, and that is the case, you know, very important case, Uttam Singh versus State of Madhya Pradesh, which says in this case a child witness was sleeping with the deceased father at a relevant time. And at the time of incidents, he just awoke by the sound of the fatal blow of the axe on the neck of the deceased. And he saw that her mother has been assassinated. And hearing the sound, the mother and the sister of the child and other witness gather at the spot. The evidence was held to be admissible at a part of the same transaction as shout was the natural and probable as per the fact of the case. Means if you say that, you know, a child was you know, just made a cry, it may be not relevant, because child always, you know, cry it in the night, it may be. But when it is the forming part, it is the part of that chain, then this fact is, you know, relevant to the fact. Now there are a couple of examples which say that, you know, what is the relevancy of the fact in issue and fact. See, if anything, you know, which has been done out of motive, you have done any preparation or previous conduct, you know, shows. So it is also relevant. It is also the relevancy of the fact which you are going to prove. Suppose I had a fight with a person A, and the person A is very notorious, and he is very you know, bully type of person in the area. So when I say something, no, my lord, he has, you know, used the stick on my head, the court will easily you know, take my point, because it will relevant for the court, because the conduct, motive and preparation of the person. So the relevancy means what is admissible, how court will consider your evidence in the court of law while deciding the case. This section 34 is very important, you know, in this aspect. I think you have heard about section 34. It says the common intention. If any act has been done in furtherance of the common intention, suppose A, B and C have planned to rob a person, but only one person had, played an active role. The other one remained silent. But the other are also, committed the same offense. So the relevancy of that part with the other accused is also relevant. Now, section 11 is also very important. आपने कई बार देखा होगा कि लोग जब आपको कोई कोर्ट में लेके आते हैं और आपके ऊपर कोई मुकदमा चल रहा है तो लोग तो जैसा पूछते हैं हाँ बताओ आपको क्या कहना है तो सबसे पहला जो फर्स्ट इंसिडेंट वी हैव सीन जनरली इन माय एक्सपीरियंस आई हैव सीन द accused in basically in criminal trial they will take the shadow of plea of alibi. वो कहते हैं just how I was not there at the time of the incident. And when I was not there at the time of incident, then how can I, commit the crime? So that is very, very important. The plea of alibi, and it is, comes in the exceptions of criminal code. If the person is not present there, how can he, done such an act, offense? And the another section, section 12, section 13 says that the right, custom, and the amount determined by the court is also relevant at the time of deciding the case. So that is all the relevancy part. Now this is also the example of bodily feeling and all. Now this is important. Now we are moving into the aspect of admission. What is the meaning of admission? Admission means my statement, or what is admissible in the court. As we have discussed that when you go to the court asks you to present certain evidence, and what evidence are is admissible in court. There are n number of evidence you have, but only those evidence are admissible. Admissible means on the basis of that evidence, court can deliver the judgment. Court can allow to produce before them. If we will not, if there is no, if this section is not there in Indian Evidence Act, then it is very impossible to conclude the trial, because party has a tendency to produce document after document, testimony after testimony, evidence after evidence. So just to check that the person should restrict for a certain number of evidence to produce before the court, the section admission is there. Only those proof or statement are allowed by the court which is admissible and which is relevant. Now what is admission? Admission means three things. It is documentary and it is electronic. Now oral, what is the meaning of oral admission? What I say before the court on oath, it is oral evidence. What is documentary evidence? What piece of document, the physical document, whether it is paper or whether it is electronic form, it is a piece of oral documentary evidence. Now this is also a very important question, confession. So confession also fall under the chapter is admission. Admission means confession also. Confession means if I say anything about the offense, it is an confession. So Justice Stephen said very good thing about confession. Confession is an admission made at any time by a person charged with a crime, stating or suggesting the interference that he has committed that crime. Confession means I am taking the responsibility of that crime. Yes, I have done. So admission have two types: the extrajudicial confession and the confession before the judiciary. Now section 25 is very important. Many of us talk about that whatever we have said before the police or in police station, it is not admissible in the court of law. Suppose police, arrested you, and he has, taken your sign on a blank paper, or he had tortured you, asked you to say anything, and he has recorded. So it is a relevant fact, or it is admissible before the court of law? No, it is not. Why not? Because the constitution, it says that no person is allowed to give the evidence against himself as well. And the Honorable Supreme Court, in the case of Dadu versus State of Maharashtra, it says that the secure confession by hook or crook seems to be the be all and end all the police investigation. Means police has every power to get from you whatever they want in the police station, because you are helpless in the police station. They can torture you, they can brutally harass you, and you I mean, you are helpless to say anything. That is why the law is very intelligent, and this section is incorporated in Indian Evidence Act, because until and unless the court will examine you on oath and the other party cross-examine you, then only the confession is relevant. But now the question arises here that the confession is not at all relevant, or it has no relevancy at all. If there is no relevancy, or it is not relevant, then why the section 25 is there? No, it is not like that. There is something of section 25. If the confession collaborate with the circumstantial evidence, then it is admissible in the proof of law, but not conclusive proof. It give the path, or it give the way to the judge that yes, we can infer that it may happen or it may not happen, but we cannot deliver a judgment solely on the basis of the confession of a person, because it is also presumed by the law that confession may be given out of ill will, under influence, under the pressure of anyone. So court has to testify why the person is giving the statement against him, or why the person is giving, what is the motive behind it, that he is confessing anything. Now there is section 32, which says statement given by a person who is died, or at the time of death, a person gives any statement, we consider it is a dying declaration, and we consider the dying declaration is a relevancy in the court of law, and it is admissible evidence, because we consider a man will not meet his maker with a lie in his mouth. मतलब अगर हम कहें कि मरने वाला आदमी झूठ नहीं बोलता, इसलिए the dying declaration is also a relevant fact. But dying declaration is also a nitty-gritty, and dying declaration is not the sole proof. It also be taken as per the set procedure, then only it is admissible in the court. Now it is very important, I think most of you are the forensic expert, and it is the important part of you, because now we are going into the territory where the forensic persons are involved. Now the section 5 to 51, it's talk about the expert opinion of third person. So, and the basic and the fundamental principle of Evidence Act, it says the evidence should be direct, and it should be the source of the person. I mean, it should be direct. No hearsay evidence is admissible. But the section 45 to 51 talk about the expert opinion. It says, uh, there are matters which is, technical varieties, which require the expert opinion, which require the uh, extensive skills, the experience, I mean years of experience to prove a case. Suppose there is a case for cyber crime. So the advocate or the judge is not, have that skill, terminology to understand the term. So the court required the assistance of a person who have the knowledge, special knowledge, skill, who can, help the court to, go to a conclusion point to deliver that judgment. Now, what is the value of the value of opinion of an expert? So the data, it has two aspects. One is data evidence and second is the opinion evidence. Data evidence means the person who is so much of experience, who is expert, he gives the data on a certain point on which the court required his help. And the second is, he not only give data, but is provide his opinion that on the basis of this data, the opinion is required. This is the opinion. And on the basis of such and such data, this is my opinion. And this opinions, help the court to understand the matter or to solve the problem. There is, in the trial, we have required or we require, certain type of expert like medical, legal evidence, if the case of murder. So we require the medical legal expert, the doctors, to corroborate the value, the opinion. And why we require the expert help? Let's say doctor, because when we consult to the expert, let's say the doctor, so it help us to determine what is the injury. The injury was anti or post, or it was inflicted before the death or after the death. The probable weapon is used to inflict this injury, the effect of this injury, the consequence of this injury, impact and veracity of this injuries, and the cause of death, duration and probable time of death, cause of death. So there are many things which is required by this expert, and we use the expert opinion in such a case. Now there is a very important case, Ram Narayan versus State of Punjab, in which the Honorable Supreme Court says inconsistency between direct evidence and medical evidence. This is a most fundamental defect. Means the evidentiary value of any expert evidence is not conclusive, because it is an opinion. Because it is an opinion, that is why it is not an evidence. Evidence means which is given by the parties to prove his case, but it is an opinion. Opinion always be perceived to support the further fact. That is why it said the expert opinion. So if we require an opinion, we want to establish our case, this circumstantial evidence, the other evidence, if it is support, if there is no inconsistency between other evidence, then only only the expert opinion is admissible. Otherwise, it is a fundamental defect, as the Supreme Court says in Ram Narayan versus State of Punjab case. Now, there is the seriologist report. It is an example of the expert opinion, where we use the expert opinion. As regard, I mean, in this case, the blood stain has been found on the dhoti of a human blood stain. Now, a stereologist report has been given, but Supreme Court said that the blood grouping is not there. Though there was a stain in the dhoti, it is apparent that something has happened. This crime has happened, but the blood group has not been given by the party in this case. So I mean, the inference as the evidence is not the conclusive proof, and the case has been dismissed. So that is how we use the expert opinion, the medical legal expert opinion. Now, it is also very important section, as you are aware, that section 239 of CRPC, that most of have you heard about that FSL report, or the report given by the government officials or the medical officer. So under which provision of CRPC it has been given? The section 239, 293 of CRPC, it is laid down the procedure, how the report should be prepared, and what is the content of the report, and how it is admissible, and how it is going to be present before the court. So that is the section for the forensic expert or the person who are asked to present the report on it. Now, there are cases wherein we use the expert opinion for blood stain, DNA test, narco analysis test, the blood test, handwriting, finger printing, photography, autopsy, and postmortem. There are many things. Now, there is another case on postmortem, that is Ghafoor Sheikh versus State of Punjab. A doctor conducted the postmortem examination for the purpose of refreshing his memory, as permitted by law, while giving evidence in the court. The judge has erred in the law in treating the postmortem report as a substantive evidence in this case, without any foundation having reason for applicability of any of the relevant provision of chapter 2 of the Evidence Act. It means, if you are giving a postmortem report and you are not following the procedure which has been laid down under chapter 2 of Indian Evidence Act, then the postmortem report is also not a conclusive proof. It is not admissible in the court of law. अच्छा, एक आपने अभी देखा होगा रिसेंटली, पूरा इंडिया के अंदर जो था वो बहुत ज्यादा हम लोग एजिटेटेड हो गए थे when we have seen the brutal murder of Nirbhaya case. So Mukesh and another was the state of NCT of Delhi gang rape case. तो इसके अंदर क्या हुआ था, इस केस के बाद ये डिमांड होने लगी कि मेडिकल एविडेंस जो है it should be considered, because the brutal rape in the with Nirbhaya has given up the boost for the medical evidence. And after that, you can see there are a number of cases on the basis of the investigation agency has sent behind the bar the accused. अभी रिसेंटली 2018 के अंदर हमने सुना कठुआ रेप एंड मर्डर केस, उसके अंदर एक 8 साल की लड़की थी, there is a 8 years old girl was raped and murdered, but the investigation agency have no piece of evidence find out. What they did, they asked for the forensic examination, and they have made 14 packets, that is 14 packet of evidence containing the vaginal swabs, hair stain, blood stain, samples of 4 accused और गर्ल की जो थे उनके बेसिस के ऊपर था द इन्वेस्टिगेशन एजेंसी caught 8 accused, and the all 8 accused were arrested and charged for the crime, and the case is still going on. So as I was saying, that medical opinion is no value itself if it is not collaborated with the other piece of evidence, with the direct evidence, or if it is not inconsistent with. But it does not mean that the expert opinion has no relevancy at all. It has the relevancy, and it is very, very important to decide to get the inference, and it is very important for the investigation agency to investigate, to collect the evidence, to produce the evidence before the court, and to send behind the bar of the accused, to the accused, in many cases. And after Nirbhaya case, and as an advocate, and the judges are also relying on this medical, piece of evidence, and it is growing. So there is a bright future of forensic expert, whether they are ballistic expert, fingerprint expert, electronic expert, or medical legal expert. So it is the huge play field for them now as the technology is advancing. Polana Jawaharlal Nehru versus Reddy Rala Prabhakar Reddy. Now in this case, a blank promissory note were given. Now the dispute was the petitioner was saying that he has blank check and this he has not signed. So court sent this check for the handwriting expert, but there was a dispute of ink, that the ink is for 5 years old or 3 years old. So the age of the ink, but court found later that the age of the ink is not perfect, and on the basis of this observation, the court has dismissed this case. Now there is another important aspect for the experts, that is the footprint. I mean, I believe that most of you have seen that there is a serial which was coming on the Star TV or the GTV. It's called CID. We have found many times that the investigation of agencies get the footprint and get collaborative with the accused, and the accused will get arrested. So footprint is also a very relevant part of investigation agency, and it is also admissible, and it is relevant when we try in criminal cases. Now I have talked a lot about the evidence. Now this is your time. There is a case Abdul Razak, which is state of Maharashtra. So I will give you a problem. You have to give me the answer on the basis of the expert opinion. So there है क्या हुआ था इस केस में, एक पुणे एक्सप्रेस was derailed. एक पुणे एक्सप्रेस थी, उसके एक्सीडेंट हो गया मिराज रेलवे स्टेशन के पास. अब वहां पर जब ये एक्सीडेंट हो गया तो जो इन्वेस्टिगेशन एजेंसी थी उन्होंने ये पता लगाया कि ये किसने उनके सामने क्वेश्चन था कि किसने एक्सीडेंट किया है. तो दे हैव आस्क्ड फॉर द डॉग. सिनिकर डॉग उन्हें बुलाया और उस सिनिकर डॉग ने वहां पर जो डीरेल हुआ था उसके बाद उस सेक्शन के ऊपर उसने सूंघा और सूंघता वो आगे गया और एक जो बंदा था उसके ऊपर वो भौंकने लगा. Now the question is arise before the Supreme Court whether the evidence of dog tracking is admissible in the evidence, whether this evidence will be treated at par with the evidence of sufficient scientific expert. तो आपको मुझे इसका जवाब देना है, एक एक करके आप मुझे जवाब दीजिए. Now one by one I will ask you what would have happened. क्या सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा होगा इस केस में, बताइए. क्या वो डॉग ने जो वहां से वो सूंघ के गया था और उसने एक उसने किसी आदमी के ऊपर भौंका, he barked on a specific person. So whether this evidence will be a better at par with the evidence of scientific expert, क्या ये इस केस के अंदर
Police dogs are normally trained for this, so I think it should be considered.
It should be considered. Okay, how
No,
many
because the police dog is normally trained. The police dogs are normally trained for such.
But I'm asking. No, it is not. See, the question is. I mean, you have to understand the fundamental principle. The expert opinion is not a conclusive proof to conclude the case. You cannot deliver a judgment on solely on the basis of the expert opinion. That is the fundamental principle of expert opinion, right? But expert opinion collaborate. Now let me give you the fundamentals first. So अगर एक्सपर्ट ओपिनियन के साथ और एविडेंस भी कलेक्ट हो जाए और वो किसी चीज की तरफ स्ट्रांगली इशारा कर रहे हो तो वो केस जो है कंक्लूड हो जाएगा, एविडेंस कंक्लूड हो जाएगा और एविडेंस को हम स्ट्रांग एविडेंस मानेंगे. तो अब आप एक एक करके बताइए कि those who are favor in the case that yes the judgment can be delivered on the basis of sniffer dogs can say yes. How many of you?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Only one?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now tell me those who say no with your name. Everyone is convinced that it is a conclusive proof for delivering judgment.
Yes.
No one is saying no.
सर मुझे लगता है कि शायद नहीं. My name is पूनम.
अच्छा पूनम, अच्छा क्यों नहीं लगता कि क्यों नहीं होगा?
जरूरी नहीं है कि अगर डॉग्स ने उसको सूंघ के भौंका तो हम ये मान सकते हैं कि वो ही उसने ही किया है.
आकाश ये इनकी वीडियो जरा ऑन करो, जरा हम एक भी वीडियो पे बात करेंगे. एक वीडियो इनकी लेके आना. हाँ दोबारा बोलो क्या कर रहे थे? हाँ बोलो.
हाय सर.
हाँ बोलो.
सर मुझे नहीं लगता है कि डॉग ने अगर उसे सूंघा है तो वो ही वो है, अपराधी है.
जो सिनिकर डॉग की तो वो है.
जरूरी नहीं है सर, तो अच्छा डॉग है तो.
लेकिन सर इसको एविडेंस मान सकते हैं.
नहीं
सर उस पर ट्रायल चलाया जाएगा.
कोर्ट जजमेंट दे सकती है.
सर मेरे ख्याल में इसको
नहीं सर जजमेंट नहीं दे सकते, लेकिन इसको एविडेंस मान सकते हैं.
आप इतना पुख्ता एविडेंस नहीं मान सकते हैं बिकॉज वो एक एनिमल ही तो है सर. हो सकता है उससे भी गलती हो सकती है और गलती कानून के
लेकिन सेक्शन 3 में बोला गया है कि डॉग को एविडेंस में रेगुलेट किया गया है कि हाँ अगर ऐसा हो रहा है तो
मैं आपको एक और क्लू देता हूँ. So what is the meaning of evidence? We have seen on initial slide. I marked with the red underline. I said everything is relevant. Everything is a fact. And yes, every fact is relevant until the contrary proof or is not ensured. तो फंडामेंटल प्रिंसिपल जो एविडेंस एक्ट का वो ये कहता है कि हर चीज फैक्ट है. और दूसरा ये भी फंडामेंटल है कि एक्सपर्ट ओपिनियन की इंपॉर्टेंस है पर वो कंक्लूसिव प्रूफ नहीं है. लेकिन इस केस में क्या हुआ? बिकॉज इट इज एन इंपॉर्टेंट केस. दैट इज व्हाई आई ब्रिंग टू यू. तो मुझे लगा सिर्फ एक ने कहा कि इसके ऊपर कंक्लूसिव प्रूफ नहीं है और यूनानिमस डिसीजन ये था सभी का कि ये कंक्लूसिव प्रूफ है और इसके ऊपर जो है वो सजा हो जानी चाहिए. तो correct me if I'm wrong. Should we move to the answer?
Yeah.
सर उस पर ट्रायल चलाया जाएगा ना, जिस पे अगर वो कर रहा है, अगर जिसको भोगता
अच्छा,
है उस पे अगर.
आदर्श भी कह रहा है कुछ.
सर मैं आकाश.
हाँ आकाश, आप क्या कहते हो?
सर मैं ये कहता हूँ कि जिस पे उस डॉग ने जिसको शाउट किया, तो उसको हम पकड़ के उस पे कार्रवाई कर सकते हैं ना, उस पे ट्रायल चला सकते हैं, उसके देखेंगे कि अगर उसमें अगर पहले से ही कुछ किया हो तो उससे.
I would like to know the opinion of others because he is a forensic expert.
सर यदि मेरा कहना ये कि अगर कोई भी डॉग्स किसी चीज को सूंघ के किसी भी एनी पर्सन पे भौंकेगा तो आप उसको पकड़ के उस पर ट्रायल चलाएंगे?
एनी नहीं, वो एविडेंस के लिए अलग.
अच्छा, आपको मैं एक और बता देता हूँ. आप ना सीआरपीसी के अंदर एक सेक्शन है, सेक्शन 41.
यस सर.
तो वो आप जरूर पढ़ना, तो आपको पता चलेगा कि इफ देयर इज एनी एप्रीहेंशन टू द पुलिस, he can detain you or he can ask you the question, and he can send you behind the bar if you say contrary to the question which they put to you. अगर उन्होंने कोई पूछा, आपने गलत जवाब दिया, तो पुलिस के पास पावर है सेक्शन 41 सीआरपीसी के अंदर कि आपको जेल में भेज सकते हैं. ये भी एक वो है कि आपने सी द आंसर इज trained or tracking dog is relevant. So as I said, prove, not prove and disprove, जो बीच की सिचुएशन थी वो सिचुएशन यहाँ पे अराइज होगी है. क्यों? क्योंकि कोर्ट ने उसे रिलेवेंट तो मान लिया और कोर्ट ने उसको मानते हुए जजमेंट भी दे दिया, पर जजमेंट उस बेस पे नहीं दिया कि इट इज एन एक्सपर्ट एविडेंस. जज डिलीवर जजमेंट ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द एक्सपर्टीज ऑफ दैट एनिमल. The dog, because dog has given more weightage to dog than the animal. अब आप देखो कोर्ट ने क्या कहा. कोर्ट ने उस डॉग को ज्यादा अच्छा माना, एक्सपर्ट ओपिनियन. उसने कहा कि नहीं, एक्सपर्ट ओपिनियन इज रिलेवेंट, बट the court said the and admissible in evidence, but the evidence can't be treated at par with the evidence of scientific expert analyzing blood or chemical. The reaction of blood and chemical can't be equated with the behavior of dog, which is an intelligent animal. I mean, it is a very good remark by the court. It is an intelligent animal with many thought process similar to the thought process of human being. It means the dog is also have the same senses and he can calculate other than the chemical process and all. So that is the answer of the question. We have seen in Avdesh versus State of MP, Supreme Court observed, as मैंने जैसे पहले कहा, तो medical expert is an opinion, is not lawful, final and binding. You can only take as a reference point of view, but it is not binding on the court to deliver the judgment solely on the basis of. It is not a conclusive nature. So that is the nature of expert opinion. Now the issue and challenges in procedure court. अभी हमने देखा कि हमारे पास एविडेंस कैसे कैसे होते हैं. अब ये लिस्ट है, इसके अंदर है कि हाउ मेनी टाइप ऑफ एविडेंस वी हैव. नाउ देयर आर डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ एविडेंस व्हिच वी ट्रीट. One which is called anecdotal evidence. ये is not a piece of evidence which required in the court. Then analogical evidence is also not a piece of evidence. ये एविडेंस हम वहां पर यूज करते हैं जहां पर हमारे को इन्फ्रेंस ड्रॉ करना होता है, कंपैरिजन करने होते हैं. बिकॉज दिस टाइप ऑफ एविडेंस गो टू इंसिडेंटल एंड एनालॉजिकल जो एविडेंस है वहां पर यूज करते हैं जहां इन्वेस्टिगेशन एजेंसीज की जरूरत होती है. मतलब बिफोर द कोर्ट सच टाइप ऑफ एविडेंस आर बीइंग यूज्ड. अब हमने बार बार बात करी सर्कमस्टेंशियल एविडेंस. तो व्हाट इज सर्कमस्टेंशियल एविडेंस? सर्कमस्टेंशियल एविडेंस के अंदर अगर आपको पता हो तो हमने थॉट के अंदर एक प्रिंसिपल पढ़ा था, नेमो डेट क्वा नॉन हैबिटे, और एक और प्रिंसिपल पढ़ा था कि जो है इसका लोकूटर, मतलब घटनाएं स्वयं बोलती हैं। हमने पढ़ा था ना एक ये, याद है
Yes,
आपको?
Yes, sir. Yes.
सर्कमस्टेंशियल एविडेंस जो होते हैं कि सर्कमस्टेंस नेवर से lie, it says as it is, कि जैसे जैसी चीजें होती है वैसे वैसे वो चीज दिखा देती है. इट मीन्स कि सर्कमस्टेंस टेल यू द ट्रूथ, देन whether the incidents had happened, whether one is guilty or not. Now I will put a question to you and you have to answer to me. एक लड़का घर से भागता हुआ जा रहा है रात के अंधेरे में, रात का अंधेरा है और एक लड़का बड़ी तेजी से घर से भागता हुआ निकला, उसके शर्ट के ऊपर ब्लड लगा हुआ है और वो पसीना पसीना हो रहा है, बहुत तेज भाग रहा है. Suddenly after 5 minutes there was another person who was also running after him, saying that Khoon, 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 Khoon. Then he also ran away. Then third person came, Khoon kar diya, Khoon kar diya, Khoon kar diya. So I would like to ask you, now this is the scenario for the circumstantial evidence. Now I would like to ask you, if police caught the first person who ran first, and he was wearing the blood-stained shirt. I mean, do you think that he is the murderer? उसने खून करा होगा?
सर ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि वो लड़का जो पहला भागा उसको शायद उसने किसी और ने खून करने की कोशिश किया और वो बच के भाग गया.
तो ये आंसर अगर आप देखें, हम बहुत सी बार फिल्मों में देखते हैं, कई फिल्में आपने देखी होगी, उसके अंदर
भगवान आपकी बेटी का भला करे.
सिर्फ बॉस में मूवी में भी है.
हाँ, और अभी अगर आप रिसेंट एक मूवी देखो which is very good on cross examination, section 365. I mean,
Yes, sir.
when you see, watch the movie from start to end, only last 5 minutes you will come to know that what was the real truth. So circumstantial evidence, because it's a locutor, घटनाएं कभी झूठ नहीं बोलती, वो a piece of evidence हो सकता है. It can indicate that yes, the person may or shall involved in the crime, but it does not mean that he is the criminal or he has done this act. So circumstantial evidence only indicate to a particular point. It does not mean, because we have to see in a whole gamut what was the scenario has been upheld by the honorable court. Now this is there are type of evidence which is hearsay evidence, physical evidence and tangible evidence. अच्छा, एक इसमें बड़ा important chapter है which is a hearsay evidence. The fundamental principle of evidence is that evidence should be direct, and it should be comes from the person who are affected or who is direct proximity of the fact. So hearsay evidence is not admissible at all, because हम कहते हैं कि हमने कहा कुछ, किसी ने समझा कुछ और उसे कुछ और बता दिया, तो इसलिए hearsay evidence is not a piece of evidence. Now the evidence is also a very important point, because आपने देखा होगा कई बार जब पुलिस वाले इन्वेस्टिगेशन करते हैं तो they caught number of people who were involved in the crime, and on the basis of one person confession in the police station, the other person also caught. That is called the disclosure of the person. It is also relevant part. It is also the admissible in the court of law. Now the next slide. Now the next slide. Now next slide. Now, it is also an important aspect of the law of evidence. It is called estoppel. So estoppel means, law will stop you to do or to say anything. There is a very good saying in law. It says, आप हाँ कह के तो ना कह सकते हो कोर्ट में, पर ना कह के हाँ नहीं कह सकते. इट मीन्स you cannot go back on your own word. I mean, law stop you. Means if you say no, so let's say an example. There is the dispute between husband and wife, and wife says, "I am the wife of such and such person," and when they go before the court, court asks, "Are you wife of this person?" And the lady say, "No, I'm not the wife of this person." But later on, when she want to say, "No, I say wrongly, I am the wife of this person," so court will stop you to say. So it means, but if you say yes, you can say no. Means in the same example, if you say no, I was not the wife, but yes, I am the wife. After that, I, marriage of this person. It means it is not permissible in law that, if you make an assertion and later on you will, turn back to your assertion, because it will allow, in the trial, so the trial will not concluded at all. So estoppel means not allowed or permitted to speak contrary to his earlier statement. कि आपने जो पहले कहा उसके बाद आप इसे उसके खिलाफ कुछ नहीं कह सकते. You cannot say contrary to it. Now the next slide. Now it is very important, many times. So as we say, the fact, relevancy of fact, the admission and the proof. So who will prove the case? If I will go to the court and saying that, this is my house, so who have to prove the case? Certainly the person who have, required or demand the court to act in a particular direction, or to, give the judgment in his favor, who have instituted the case, he has to prove his case. So burden means the responsibility of proving the case, responsibility of giving the proof. So the concept of burden of proof rests on two aspects. One is onus probendi and factum probendus. Means onus means the responsibility of proof, responsibility of giving the proof, and factum means to prove that fact. मतलब कि एक बार आपको प्रूफ देना है अपने केस को साबित करने के लिए, और आपको वो साबित भी करना है, कोई दूसरा साबित नहीं करेगा उसे. बट अगर आप देखो तो जो सिविल प्रोसीडिंग्स और क्रिमिनल प्रोसीडिंग्स है, इट इज द डिफरेंट रूल्स ऑफ बर्डन ऑफ प्रूफ. सिविल प्रोसीडिंग में यू हैव टू प्रूव योर केस बाय योरसेल्फ, बट इन क्रिमिनल प्रोसीडिंग्स इट इज नॉट योर ड्यूटी. अगर आपको अगर एक मर्डर हो जाता है तो वो कैसे प्रूव करेगा? इस प्रिंसिपल के हिसाब से ही कैन नॉट प्रूव बिकॉज ही हैज गॉन. So that is why the principle of state has been incorporated in the criminal cases. आपने देखा होगा state versus so and so, state versus so and so, ये लिखा होता है. तो states का मतलब the government has to prove. अगर ये नहीं होता, because see, to prove a case, to prove a criminal case, lot of things required. You have to investigation, you have to examine, you have to collect the evidences. So the private person cannot do all this exercise. That is why the law is so vigilant, and law implemented the principle of state. And in criminal cases, the onus rests on the prosecution to prove the case. If any person, you know, in the criminal case, take the shadow of general exceptions, जैसे आपने पढ़ा होगा ना आईपीसी के अंदर जनरल एक्सेप्शंस है कि मैंने तो सेल्फ डिफेंस में मारा था, जैसे प्ली ऑफ एलिबाई मैं कहता हूँ कि मैं तो वहां था ही नहीं, या मेरे पर अनड्यू इन्फ्लुएंस था, या इसने मेरे ऊपर गन रख दी थी. तो व्हेन यू आर टेकिंग दिस general exception shadow, then the ownership from the prosecution to you, because you have to prove your statement. The moment you say or state anything before the court, the onus shifted from the prosecution to you. इसमें एक और बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है कि अफर्मेटिव और डिनाई. जब बर्डन ऑफ प्रूफ affirmative होता है, affirmative means when burden of proof, when you are saying yes, then the responsibility of yours to prove it. But when you deny, the responsibility shift to the other person. Suppose I say that I had marriage with this lady, and the lady denied, no, I didn't marry with this person. So the response, because I have affirmative to say that I am married, so this is the responsibility of mine to prove my case. It is not the responsibility of the lady because she has denied. So the burden of proof rests with the affirmative aspect, जो ये हाँ हमें कहता है या जो वो प्रूफ करना चाहता है. That is the burden of proof. Now एक और भी बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है, आपने देखा होगा हम पढ़ते हैं तो हम उसमें लिखा होता है कि बियॉन्ड रीजनेबल डाउट. ये बेसिकली क्रिमिनल लॉ का कॉन्सेप्ट है कि व्हेनेवर यू वांट टू गिव पनिशमेंट टू एनीवन, I mean that is the responsibility of the judge. When he convicts any person in a criminal trial, he has to be absolutely sure about it, and he has to give his judgment beyond any reasonable doubt. Beyond any reasonable doubt means अगर आप beyond any reasonable doubt अपना judgment deliver नहीं करते हैं, so you will find yourself like the picture of this monster, because the doubt will make you like this picture, because the question will come to you and it will ask you, are you really sure about it? You are going to convict this person. I mean, means beyond mean closing your all doubts, whatever is coming to your mind. And reasonable means having sound judgment and fairness, because the law, criminal law, based on the principle just and fair. Because if there is any doubt, it means it is not just and fair, and it was injustice with the person, because criminal law is the question of life and death of a person, or it is the curtailment of the liberty of a person. Because अगर आपने किसी को कन्विक्ट कर दिया और उसे जेल में भेज दिया, तो आपने उसकी लिबर्टी जो थी घूमने फिरने बोलने उसके किसी से मिलने, वो आपने सब खत्म कर दिया. So इसीलिए the criminal law is very very vigilant to consider this point. Whenever you are convict the person, it should be beyond reasonable doubt. आपने एक और भी प्रोवर्ब सुनी होगी कि हम कहते हैं 100 अपराधी छूट जाए पर एक जो है एक इनोसेंट को सजा नहीं मिलनी चाहिए. तो यही वो प्रिंसिपल है जो ये बताता है. तो डाउट मीन प्रोबेबल क्वेश्चन विच कैन कम्स और सस्पिशियस इन योर माइंड कि इसने क्राइम करा भी था या नहीं करा था. जब कोई जज जजमेंट देता है तो एक ये चार्ट है, वो जर्नली हम लोग फॉलो करते हैं. मतलब ऐसा कहा जाता है क्रिमिनल प्रिंसिपल्स में कि कन्विंस बियॉन्ड रीजनेबल डाउट, ही विल अंडरस्टैंड कि इवन ब्लैटेंट मिस्टेक तो नहीं है, नो गिल्टी. अनडिसाइडेड है तब भी नो गिल्टी, प्रोबेबिलिटी है कहीं तब भी वो पर्सन नो गिल्टी होगा, कन्विक्शन नहीं होगी, उसे हम उसे छोड़ देंगे। पिटी श्योर नहीं है किसी की इसने काम करा नहीं करा, तब भी छोड़ देंगे। ऑलमोस्ट कन्विंस है, फिर भी हम अगर उसमें जो है ऑलमोस्ट कन्विंस नहीं है, ऑलमोस्ट कन्विंस है, फिर भी वो नो गिल्टी है। एंड अ बाइंडिंग कन्विक्शन प्रूव बियॉन्ड अ रीजनेबल डाउट, जब सारी डाउट खत्म हो जाते हैं तब किसी व्यक्ति को हम जो है वो सजा देते हैं। इसीलिए कई बार आपने देखा होगा, मेनी टाइम वी हैव सीन दैट देयर आर लॉट ऑफ एजिटेशन आउटसाइड द कोर्ट कि हैंग टिल दैट, मार दो उसे, खत्म कर दो। जैसे निर्भया वाले केस में आपने देखा, जैसे कठुआ गैंग रेप केस में आपने देखा, जैसे हैदराबाद गैंग रेप केस में आपने देखा कि लोगों की इतनी सारी फीलिंग्स थी और इतने सारा एजिटेशन हुआ कि इसे मार दो, फिर भी हमने उसे पूरा ट्रायल कराया बिकॉज वी वांट टू क्लियर ऑल डाउट। दैट इज द principle based on beyond. Now this is the principle which Bentham says. Bentham says witness are the eye and the ear of justice. Now we are going to testimony of witness. Now दूसरी स्लाइड पे विटनेस, ये बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट है। आपने देखा होगा कि मैं तो विटनेस देने जा रहा हूं, तो जब भी हम क्रिमिनल ट्रायल शुरू करते हैं तो हम विटनेसेस एग्जामिन करते हैं। विटनेसेस मींस गवाह को एग्जामिन करते हैं। So the section says who are witness, who may testify. Testify mean किसकी गवाही, who is testify. Witnesses means the person go before the court and give their statement, and court consider their statement and go to the conclusion of the case. So there are, the section says all the persons, because there is no bar at all for the witnesses. Every person is competent to testify, to give the evidence, to give the proof before the court. Now there is a list in the right side column. Every person, even the dumb, child, interested witness, eyewitness, hostile witness, related witness, independent, solitary, material, stray witness, expert, official, everyone is competent. Now Supreme Court says in the case of Gujarat versus Anirudh Singh, very relevant point. It says it is the duty of every witness who has the knowledge of the commission of a crime to assist the state in giving evidence. So the Supreme Court in this case casts the duty of the person, if he has any knowledge about the crime, he has the duty to go before the court and testify themselves and dispose before the court. Law give you certain opportunities, law give you certain advantages, but yes, on this other hand, he also put the check and balances. He resists you to doing many things. So it doesn't mean that law allow all the person who can be testify before the court. Means कि कोई भी person जो है वो कोर्ट में गवाही दे सकता है, चाहे उसकी competency कुछ भी हो. But it doesn't mean that the court will compel any person to call before the court and compel him to give the statement. So the exception of this rule is privileged communication, means qualify advantage. If you are a person, you relation with any other person, or with your position, with your status, or any other thing, give you the advantage, you acquire that knowledge, but it doesn't mean that you will compel to dispose before the court. So the communication, like had happened during the marriage, the judge and magistrate official communication, state affair, professional communication means if any client say anything to his advocate, It doesn't mean the court will compel to the advocate saying that आप बताओ कि आपके client ने आपको क्या कहा, because there is this system in the society. अगर आप जज को आप कटघरे में खड़ा करके या मजिस्ट्रेट को बुला के बोलो कि जैसा आप जो है आपको क्या बोला था वो आप स्टेटमेंट दो, so it is not allowed. So there are certain there are certain people who are immune to be called in the court and to compel to give the evidence before the court of law. So that is called, every person is testified, but there are certain restrictions on it. So, the evidence has also says something how the witness will examine in the court of law. So section 135 to section 137 is the part of procedural law, as we discussed earlier, that Evidence Act is the substantive as well as the procedural part. So now this is the procedural part. So what will happen, when you go to the court? What first, examine in chief. Examine in chief means statement of the person or the accused. He will or the witness who want to depose before the court. Then the another person, the other party, will cross-examine, means he will ask the question and answer. And if the other party require the person should be re-examined, so he can also be re-examine the person. And it is important to know that in the examination and cross-examination, only the relevant fact to be asked or the question to be put before the witness. No irrelevant question should be asked to the person. But in the cross-examination, it is not confined. Anything you can ask to the witness, but it should be related to the main dispute. I mean, in cross-examination, you cannot confine yourself on the testimony or the statement or the cross-examination or the examination chief of the witness. But in cross-examination, you can ask anything, but it should be the relevant. I mean, it doesn't mean that, you should confine your cross-examination only the statement made by the witness. This is the classical example of the cross-examination. Now, there's an example of cross-examination. The bookman is called by the plaintiff. She says on direct examination that she saw the accident. The defendant was traveling 70 miles per hour. The victim was knocked 50 feet. The defendant cars traveled 150 feet before. ये एक एग्जाम्पल है एक एक्सीडेंट का कि वो 70 माइल की स्पीड पे जा रहा था और उसने ऐसा पूछा, मिस्टर ब्रॉकमैन, आई विल ट्राई नॉट टू टेक टू लॉन्ग. सो दिस इज हाउ वी एग्जामिन ए पर्सन, टू द पॉइंट, शॉर्ट and concise. But the moment you will elaborate your cross examination, you will lead or you will lose the case. I have seen in my practice that people put a question but they give numerous answer. So that is we should very much cautious when we are cross examine. We should give the concise answer which only indicate yes, no if possible, or it should not be led you to the another answer. Now, I mean, I ask you, you should read this examination. This is very was your first marriage terminated? आपकी शादी कब पहले टूटी थी? तो witness ने बोला by death. तो lawyer, and by whose death was it terminated? You can see that what type of question generally an advocate asks. It's happened sometime. Then the another cross examination is tried. Lawyer asked, she had 3 children, right? Witness said yes. Lawyer, how many were boys? The witness said no, none. And the lawyer again asked, where there were girls? So you can see that, you know, what kind of funny thing it's happened in the court. So that is all, you know, about. I try to put in a concise manner, and this is the last slide. If anyone any question, no question.
सर री एग्जामिनेशन के बारे में प्लीज एक बार और बता दें।
री एग्जामिनेशन का मतलब होता है जब आपने किसी को एक बार एग्जामिन कर लिया, मतलब उसे क्रॉस कर लिया, उससे आपने विटनेस को बुलाया, उसे आपने उससे सवाल जवाब करे,